After cooking a dinner for 14 relatives, my wife's brother slapped me on the back and said, "Every family needs a punchline. Thanks for making the rest of us look like winners." My daughter nearly choked on her drink laughing and added, "Dad's like a wet paper towel." My wife leaned back in her chair, smirked, and said, "Honestly, he's more like a Roomba. Quiet, programmable, and only useful when there's a mess." They all laughed while I smiled. Yesterday, my wife and her mother showed up crying at my door, begging me to talk. Throwaway because my main account has too much identifying info, and well, this is about to get messy. So, yesterday, my wife Stephanie and her mom Frances showed up at my apartment door, mascara running down their faces, begging me to talk. But to understand how we got here, we need to go back to last Saturday night, when I finally realized I'd been the family's walking punchline for the past 15 years. I've always been the cook in our family. It's my thing. While everyone else sits around scrolling through their phones, I'm in the kitchen prepping a 4-course meal that takes literal days of planning. Not because anybody asked me to, but because I actually enjoyed it. Or used to. Last weekend was my brother-in-law Nicholas's 45th birthday. I spent 3 days prepping a massive feast, handmade pasta, slow-roasted prime rib, the good kind that costs more than my monthly streaming subscriptions combined, and a chocolate lava cake that would have made cooking show judges weep. 14 people around our dining table, stuffing their faces with food I'd been slaving over since Thursday. I was bringing out the last dish when Nicholas slapped me on the back, hard enough that sauce sloshed over the rim of the bowl. That's when he grinned at the table and said, "Every family needs a punchline. Thanks for making the rest of us look like winners." Everyone laughed. Not polite laughter, the kind where people nearly choke on their drinks. Speaking of which, my 17-year-old daughter Josephine actually did, before adding her own little gem. "Dad's like a wet paper towel." More laughter. Louder this time. But the real kicker? My wife of 15 years leaned back, smirked, and delivered the line. "Honestly, he's more like a Roomba. Quiet, programmable, and only useful when there's a mess." The table absolutely lost it. My mother-in-law Frances was wiping tears from her eyes. My nephew was pounding the table. And there I stood, still holding the sauce, frozen smile plastered on my face. Here's the thing about being the family punchline. You get so used to it that you stop registering it as wrong. It just becomes background noise. I'd been hearing these jokes. For so long I convinced myself they were normal. Just good-natured ribbing. The way families show affection. But something snapped that night. Maybe it was my own daughter joining in so enthusiastically. Maybe it was the way Stephanie looked at me afterward, not even checking if I was okay. Or maybe, after 15 years, my give a damn finally broke. I finished serving dinner, smiled through dessert, nodded along to compliments about the food, in between their little jabs about how I'm basically a glorified kitchen appliance. I even loaded the dishwasher while they all moved to the living room to keep partying. That night I lay awake next to my snoring wife, scrolling through years of family photos. Holidays I cooked for days. Birthdays where I made everyone's favorite dish. Anniversary dinners I tried to recreate from special dates. And in every single photo, same stupid, hopeful smile on my face, like a dog waiting for a pat on the head that never comes. I've never been the confrontational type. Stephanie always handled that. But at 3 a.m., I made a decision. I was done being the punchline. Sunday morning I got up early like always. Made coffee. Waited until Stephanie wandered in looking for caffeine. Told her I was running to the store. She barely looked up from her phone. Instead of the store, I went to the bank. Withdrew exactly half of our savings and checking. Not a penny more. Then I drove to my sister Heidi's place across town, the only one who ever noticed how they treated me. By afternoon I'd signed for a month-to-month one-bedroom apartment. Nothing fancy. Just a decent kitchen. Left a note on the counter at home. Find someone else to be your punchline. Then I turned off my phone notifications. By evening, 47 missed calls and texts. I only replied to Josephine. "I love you, but I need some space right now. We'll talk soon." The rest of the week was me quietly dismantling 15 years of being their doormat. New accounts. Transferred my bills. Canceled joint subscriptions. Sorry Netflix, Stephanie can get her own account for her true crime documentaries now. Tuesday my mother-in-law started blowing up my phone. 7th voicemail. James, this is ridiculous. Whatever happened, we can work it out as a family. Stephanie is beside herself. Josephine doesn't understand why her father would just abandon them. Abandon them. After 15 years of cooking, cleaning, and being the designated punching bag. That's rich. Instead of calling back, I compiled a document, screenshots, photos, therapy notes I'd taken alone trying to figure out why I never felt respected in my own home. Wednesday morning I emailed it to Francis, Nicholas, and the rest of the dinner crew. Subject line: Why I left, a 15-year overview. Silence for hours. Then the phone exploded again. Nicholas, dude, it was just a joke. Don't be so sensitive. Francis, I had no idea you felt this way. Stephanie, how dare you air our private business to my entire family? Notice what was missing? Any actual apology. By Saturday, exactly 1 week after the dinner, I was feeling better than I had in years. Heidi came over. I cooked her carbonara. She raised her glass. To my brother, who finally realized his worth. I almost cried into my pasta. Sunday morning the doorbell rang. There they were, Stephanie and Francis, mascara waterfalls, begging to talk. Turns out a week without their personal Roomba really changes your perspective. But that's just the beginning. Update 1. Holy crap, didn't expect the post to blow up like this. RIP my inbox. Yes, it's real. I wish I had the imagination to make this up. So, Sunday morning. I let them in. My apartment is basic. Frances looked around like she'd walked into a crack den. I offered water, because that's literally all I had in the fridge besides eggs and beer. They launched into the usual script. We've been so worried, translation, we've been inconvenienced. The jokes were just our family's way of showing love. You've always been so sensitive. I waited for the uncomfortable silence to do its magic. 45 seconds later, Stephanie cracked and gave the full speech. When she finished, I asked one question. If Nicholas had said those things about you, would you have laughed? Dead silence. Then I played the recording from dinner night, the part where they compared me to a household appliance, laughter roaring in the background. Stephanie went from defensive, to shocked, to ashamed. Frances stared at the floor like it might swallow her. I told them I'd been keeping receipts for years. Showed them the birthday card that read, "Happy birthday to the man who proves even kitchen skills can't make up for a lack of ambition." Then the bombs dropped. Bomb 1. Nicholas had spent the week telling Josephine I was having a midlife crisis and coaching her to ice me out. Bomb 2. Nicholas was about to lose his house. Bad investments. Leverage to his eyeballs. Had asked Stephanie for money 2 days before everything exploded. I asked Stephanie straight, "Are you here to apologize? Or just to get your chef and punching bag back?" She started crying, real tears this time. Admitted she'd never had to think about how her words affected me because I never pushed back. Said seeing that evidence compilation was like seeing herself through a stranger's eyes, and she hated what she saw. Frances, quiet until then, dropped the biggest one. I watched my daughter treat you exactly how my husband treated me for 40 years, and I never said anything because I thought that's just how marriages work. I told them I needed time. That any chance of fixing this meant counseling, individual for Stephanie, couples for us, family with Josephine. They left shell-shocked. The rest of the week was chaos. Nicholas showed up at my work trying the "real men don't walk out" speech. I asked how his investment portfolio was doing. Color drained from his face. He left without another word. Josephine texted asking for coffee, just us. Progress. Stephanie got declined at the grocery store again. Turns out she never noticed I paid all the bills. Friday I sent Josephine her favorite post-game snacks with a note. "Proud of you always." Left it. Sunday, 2 weeks after the dinner, Josephine showed up at my door alone. We talked. She apologized for treating me like I was disposable. As she left she said, "Mom's moving in with Grandma tomorrow. She can't afford the house without you." That brings us to yesterday. Stephanie texted, We need to talk. For real this time. No crime. No excuses. I agreed to meet at a coffee shop. What she told me there changed everything again. But that's for part 3. My frozen dinner is burning. Thanks for listening, Reddit. Sometimes the family punchline gets the last laugh after all. Final update. So, the coffee shop. I got there early, ordered my Bootwater black coffee, grabbed a corner table. Stephanie walked in, no makeup, third time in 15 years, carrying a thick manila folder, looking nervous. Stephanie doesn't do nervous. She sat down, pushed the folder toward me, and said 6 words I never expected. I think I need help, James. Inside, therapist printouts. She'd already booked individual therapy, for herself. She admitted she'd always resented that I was content with simple things while she constantly chased more. My happiness made her feel inadequate, so she put me down to feel better. She said my leaving shattered her worldview. She never thought the stable one, the constant, would actually walk away. Then she slid the separation papers I'd had drafted, already signed on every page. At the bottom she'd written, I hope we never need this, but I understand why you do. Tuesday Nicholas texted demanding to meet. I made it the coffee shop near my work. He showed up looking like he'd aged a decade, no watch, coffee-stained shirt. His house of cards was collapsing. Clients pulling out. Wife had frozen accounts. Francis refused to bail him. He admitted he'd always been jealous of what Stephanie and I had, something real, while his marriage was all appearances. Asked me to put in a good word with his wife. I said I'd consider it, if he publicly apologized for the dinner comment and got honest with her about everything. He agreed instantly. Wednesday Josephine came over with a counseling pamphlet from school. We had the hard conversation about respect and how my silence over the years taught her it was okay to treat me badly. She asked if I thought she was a bad person. I told her making mistakes doesn't make you bad, refusing to learn from them does. Thursday was Thanksgiving, the one I used to slave over for days. Francis called Wednesday night. What if we cooked for you this year? I laughed, then agreed, but only at my apartment. They showed up with grocery bags and printed recipes. It was glorious chaos. Smoke alarm twice. Stuffing accidentally sweet because Josephine read tablespoon as teacup. But they produced an edible meal. We sat down. Frances apologized for raising her daughter to think belittling her partner was normal. Stephanie apologized for taking me for granted and teaching Josephine disrespect. Josephine read her apology from her notes app, called herself a jerk and promised to do better. Doorbell rang. Nicholas and his wife, holding wine, looking humble. He apologized in front of everyone for years of treating me like I was less. We ate the mangled turkey and lumpy potatoes together. Small things felt monumental. After everyone left, Stephanie asked if I'd come home. I said I wasn't ready, but I was willing to try couples counseling. She asked if I'd teach them Christmas dinner. Said yes. Fast forward a month. For counseling sessions, brutal but eye-opening. Josephine comes over twice a week. Nicholas and his wife are rebuilding, downsized house, real partnership, no more jokes at my expense. Christmas Day I went to Francis's for dinner. They cooked with almost no help from me. Nicholas raised his glass. To James, who had the courage to walk away and the grace to let us try to make things right. Everyone raised their glasses. No one laughed at me. They looked at me with something new, respect. I still don't know if I'll move back home or keep my apartment longer. I don't know if Stephanie and I will fully reconcile or eventually part ways. But I do know this. I'm not the family punchline anymore. And that feels like the ultimate victory. This has been Hidden Lies. If you went through something similar, know your worth. Sometimes walking away is the only way they finally see you. Thanks for listening.